My adult years, because I really didn't know how to cope, I didn't have the life skills to alleviate stresses and strains. I fell inadvertently into a cycle of stop-start medication via the hands of my doctors, who treated me for depression, and I was put on at the age of 18 a dose of what we now call diazepam, with his voice ringing in my ear saying, "Take 2 of these twice a day for 6 weeks, and you'll be as right as ninepence." Long story short, I was in 6 weeks. 6 weeks hence, I was happy, and I thought he was a miracle worker. What I didn't realise was I was also as high as a kite because of the dose of the medication and the type of medication he put me on, and it triggered a cycle of stop-start dalliances with prescription drugs. When I was unwell, I was depressed, I would go to my GP, I'd take the tablets for a little while, I'd declare myself better, I would stop, but I really wasn't better, so I would start drinking, and before I knew where I was, that had descended into full-blown alcoholism. So I then had 2 hats, one of mental ill health, the other of addiction, alcohol being my drug of choice, and I didn't know how to stop, let alone cope with the life that had evolved and sprung up around me, because I was married by this time. I had 2 beautiful children of my own and a wonderful stepdaughter. I had then 3 grandchildren, and at the age of 52, I was on my way to my GP one morning for some blood results. I got there, I sat down, having already started my 2nd bottle of white wine for the day at 9:30 in the morning, and she reached for the telephone and rang for an ambulance, subsequently admitted me to hospital. I found out afterwards that had I not gone to my GP when I did, at 9:30 on the 26th of September 2012, then 24 hours later I would have actually been dead. I survived, and I actually became aware of where I was 5 days later, although my husband tells me I was never unconscious. And I became aware of my surroundings and realised that I was in hospital, and that I'd actually started off in a different hospital, but somewhere along the line had been transferred. And my consultant came to see me and said, "You're a very sick young woman." And even then I used humour and said to him, "Oh good, I'll take young." I was 52, "I'll take young." And he just said, "Nah, I'm not joking. You're a very sick young woman. You've survived the battle, but I don't think you're going home, let alone walk out of here on your own 2 feet. You're dying." The world fell apart for me that day. The bottom very definitely fell out of my world, and I experienced what Oprah would call a lightbulb moment, and what I have come to term as July the 4th, the English version bonfire night, November the 5th, and multiple New Year's Eve firework displays all rolled into one went off in my head. I didn't know when, if, or how I would survive, having been told that I was dying, but I knew that if I did, then things would change, and for the greater good, not only for myself, but for my family. Shortly after that, with me still crying, my husband crying, our daughter arrived for visiting, saw us both crying and said, "What's happened? What's the matter?" My husband told her that her mother was dying. I'd already got my must, my should, I should stop drinking, of the past 15 years had become my must when I was just told I was dying. But I'd had musts before, and I'd never had a why that was strong enough. My daughter looked at me in that split second of being told her mother, who was dying, wasn't going to be around much longer. She was 18 years old. She looked at me with a look of horror, loathing, fear, hatred, but more than anything, love. And in that split second, I'd found the most powerful why that I'd ever had to that point. Fast forward 5 years, I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm happy and healthy. And I've learned very quickly that not only is and has always been life an opportunity, but we have to say yes to our opportunities. So I started, and indeed began, with the concept of saying yes. The first yes, my very, very first yes, was yes. I want to live. yes, I am going to live. And when I do survive, which clearly I have, then I'm going to say yes to the things that before I'd either been too scared of, too closed-minded about, or just didn't believe that anything good could possibly come out of saying yes. So I started to write. And people started to take note. I've always been a mental health advocate. That's my background. My background is in healthcare and education in the fields of mental health awareness and learning disability. And I've always been passionate about enabling others to reach their full potential, because we've all got potential. And yet it suddenly struck me that I'd spent all my adult life being able to do this for other people, my family, my children, my grandchildren, and clients and service users in my fields of expertise. And yet I'd never been able to say yes to myself. When I started saying yes to the fact that I'm possible, anything and everything I want to achieve is possible because I'm possible, then my life started to change on levels that I could only previously have imagined. I have two precursors, two prerequisites, if you like, to saying yes. I will never knowingly say yes to anything that's illegal or immoral. But generally speaking, I don't mix in those type of circles, so it doesn't happen. However, in saying yes before, because I had been reluctant to practice saying so, in saying yes before, it had got me into a lot of trouble. It got me into trouble because I didn't know when to say no if it was more appropriate. Now I say yes to opportunity. I say yes to things that on the surface are minor. And yet I've come to learn that in planting the seeds today that we do by saying yes to things, it sprouts the most amazing trees of tomorrow. This year alone, by saying yes to the impossible and saying yes to opportunity, I've been to India for a week. I've spoken at the World Forum Centre in The Hague. I've started a business whereby I'm now empowering people as young as 10 all the way up to 70 to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and enabling them to understand not only the power of no, which is very productive at times, but how beneficial saying yes is when it comes to themselves and their own lives. I can't even begin to tell you what a difference it's made. The key thing to remember for me in my life was that historically I'd always said yes for the wrong reasons. I'd said yes because I thought it was going to endear me to other people, and I'd said yes to people please. I took my eye off the ball. I didn't say yes to the most important thing in my life, which sounds selfish on the surface, but the most important thing in any of our lives is ourself. We have one life, we have no return, no deposit, no refunds, and very definitely no exchanges. And in this life at least, this is the only incarnation that we're going to get with no second chances. Why would we want to waste it? So today, I say yes to opportunity at every opportunity. And if there isn't an opportunity there, I create one. I give myself the means and the motive and the opportunity to say yes to everything. Each day for me now is not only a new day, it arrives as one that is filled with renewed hope and fresh optimism for the opportunities that surround us every single day. We don't often see them if our minds are closed. Start by saying yes to opening your mind and just considering, for me, just considering the possibility that something good would come of anything that I say yes to. My life's changed in ways that I can't even begin to imagine. I'm not as rich as I perhaps would like to be, but I'm not as poor as many millions of people in this world. We open our eyes in the morning, we close our eyes at night when we go to bed. We're here the day we're born, and we're here the day that we die. It's the things that we do in between that matter, the things that do in between that count, and the things that do in between who define who we are. I played a victim for far too long. I said yes to being a victim. There's a different side to that coin, and I say yes to being possible. One thing's for sure, when my time to finally leave this mortal coil does come, it won't be because of a lack of saying yes. Because yes is a complete word, it's a complete sentence, and it can be the complete definition of the summation of our lives if we allow it to be. Take care.